Hello from the Heartland. My name is Jenna, and this is Smarter News. News when it matters and why it matters. Our Smarter series features unique people who help us think and live smarter. Patricia, tell me the backstory to this photo.
So believe it or not, it's 13 years ago, just the other week. My son, I was pregnant with my first baby, and I didn't know what I was having. And because I was a professional dancer, I knew Lois Greenfield, and we had many friends in common. She had, is a very famous, wonderful, beautiful dance photographer, and she's known for getting people in flight. But I said to her, Lois, I never took any photos, and I'm due in a few days. And she's like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's clear the calendar. And I was like, all right. And I went after my patients were done on a Tuesday, and I ran in. We did all sorts of beautiful posed photos. And then at the end of the shoot, she's like, you're almost due. Do you want to jump? And I'm like, I don't advise my patients to do this, but let's do it, And so I did. And she's like, look, worst case scenario, your water breaks. I know what to do, and who knows, maybe you'll have him on my birthday. So wait. So what happens? I jump about, I don't know, it felt like I was literally this much off the floor, but she has this beautiful photo that she captured, and the air was going in my face. I felt like, a superstar. And then I took about maybe 15 or so jumps, and we got the shot, and I just fell in love with it. And that was that. It was just for me and my family. And then, I was definitely swollen after that. And I gave birth 3 days later to my first son of 9 pounds vaginally without anything, not even an epidural. So, and right on Lois Greenfield's birthday, right on her birthday. It was crazy.
That's an amazing story. Yeah. That's something that I would not imagine myself doing 9 months pregnant, a few days before maybe my due date. What would you tell your younger self now about motherhood if you had the opportunity to talk to her?
I would say relax and enjoy it, because it passes so quickly. Now he's 13 years old, and I can't believe he's 13. But I would say relax, enjoy it, listen, get the cues from the baby, stay connected to the baby, don't get distracted, don't listen to other people, really listen to yourself and listen to the cues your baby's giving you. Obviously that carries over into childhood and that, but always allowing certain times also to be sacred. I do think that sometimes there's the run around, and then you get distracted, and then the phone is pinging. And, for me, I was always a working mom. So it's really hard to find that balance, as we all know. And I kind of feel like there were certain things that I would be like, all right, it's okay. One night I won't do that, but there's very important things about rituals with your kids. And I think it's a really nice thing to say, you know what, there's certain things that I'm going to be present for, I'm going to be here for. And there's an occasional late meeting or something like that, but really keeping certain things sacred, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a connect time, whether it's something you say. I think that just keeps that bond really, really tight with your kids. So it's kind of some fun little things like that.
You've channeled some of what you've learned about motherhood into this new book, which I want to tell everyone about. But I also want to tell our audience how we know each other, because we met about 8 years ago. Patricia Ladis, I'll give your full name. It's a physical therapist, but I would describe you more as a healer overall. And I met you at a really critical intersection in my life. Yeah. I unexpectedly had to have hip surgery. Yeah. Always been an athlete. And wound up that I had to get hip surgery, and I really did not want to get it, but I had to. I was in chronic pain. And then I was even more fearful because I really wanted to have children. And I was worried about how this surgery would affect that. And my surgeon said, you got to go see Patricia. She helps all these people. She helps professional athletes. She helps professional dancers on Broadway. She understands getting someone back into their body. And that is very, very true. And very shortly after we did rehabilitation for my hip, I ended up becoming pregnant, and you helped me through multiple pregnancies, which I never thought I would need a physical therapist for, but turns out you actually do. So I'm really excited about this book. At that time, you told me that you hope to write a book someday. Yeah. So it's even more thrilling to see this. What did you think was missing from the conversation about the physicality of motherhood that you wanted to add to?
I believe that a lot of the books out there had a gap. There were a lot of women that were looking for advice, looking for support, but quite nervous. There's a fear around it. And I wanted to change the conversation. I wanted it to be about confidence and happiness and exuberance and joy, which no one thinks about. And what happens is you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get big and everything's going to hurt. And then I'm going to be breastfeeding and then I'm going to have a body that doesn't look like me. And it doesn't have to be that way. And there are plenty of wonderful things that you can do, just little things, and you can actually be better than before and feel good in your body during your pregnancy, connect with your baby while you're pregnant, have exercise, do all of the things that you always did. Why not? And so I found my patients coming to me because I was, when I first started my practice, dancers were just coming back. Like it was always like, oh, I want to start a family. I'm hanging up my pointe shoes. I'm done. But now they're coming back. So that transition was like amazing because now people actually saw, oh, she had a baby and now she can do that. Of course, like maybe I can. And there was this hope, right? But people were still coming into my office fearful and saying, well, you got her to do that. And how can I even like just get my stuff together and get my body back? And now I have a diastasis and, my belly's not right. And, my back pain is weird, or I had a horrible birth. And it's like, this is not the way that it has to be. There's specific exercises that you can do at home. There's specific breathing strategies that you can do, but you have to start with the confidence that everything's going to be okay. Otherwise, you're spiking that cortisol, you're changing your metabolism, and you're kind of creating this like inflammatory storm, which doesn't help anybody, doesn't help yourself, doesn't help your baby. So I wanted to shift in and say, hey, when I rehab an athlete, or just anybody, and they're coming back after injury and they're getting back to doing what they love, do I say to them, I don't know, it's not going to be the same. You got injured. Of course not. I'm like, you're going to get out there and you're going to win and you're going to kill it. You're going to crush it. You're going to do so great. So of course, that's how I approach pregnancy. It's like, you're going to be great. You're going to do great and you're going to be wonderful. And we also
why do you think, yeah, Patricia, that's not, what you just described is not the way that we approach pregnancy. Yeah. It's like, oh, you have a baby and they're like, we're going to put you out to pasture. Yeah. Good luck. Just say goodbye to your former self. This is new and you may not like it. That's sometimes how motherhood is talked about. It's not talked about like you're going to elevate your game. Guess what? Mm-hmm. It's not the way. So why do you think that's the conversation?
Honestly, I think that there's always this medicalized kind of fear, like you need to tell people that they have a risk of this and they have the risk because if they don't tell you, they might sue you or, whatever. And this isn't the way to operate. You want to operate not to be the most minimal, because if you tell them something wrong, something's bad possibly could happen. Every time you do something bad can possibly happen. You could cross the street tomorrow, The main thing is there are changes that happen in a woman's body. And now what we know epigenetically, the new science, it takes 17 years of the science of today to make it into mainstream medical practice. I don't know about you, but I don't have 17 years. My patients don't have 17 years. So there are some really groundbreaking bodies of knowledge that are coming out on the forefront. And I feel very privileged to be around wonderful researchers and people that are doing this science and, speaking to them, their frustration as well, and on policies and how things get, women are still, told really archaic things. And so you have to recognize that, okay, there's this body of knowledge and that, like, let's talk about the science. And what I found was that the science actually matched the wisdom of ancient years. So that's kind of why it's the wise woman's guide. You're the reader, you're the wise woman, but really we've lost that ancestral wisdom that goes through the generations.
Okay, so I have to stop you there because I have a very distinct memory of something that you told me while I was pregnant, and it has to do with your family because you come from this amazing Greek family. I love seeing all your traditions that we put on social media. It's just like the love of your family is so visceral. And you said to me, I believe you were pregnant with your third child at the time. I probably was going through my first pregnancy. And you said, in Greek culture, we don't allow the woman to do very much for about 40 days after she gives birth. She's like, you said, my mother won't even allow me to go up the stairs. I was like, she won't even allow you to go up the stairs. What do you mean? She's like, no, because this is the time to rest. And you said that really corresponds to what we're telling women now, which is that 6-week period that you're supposed to really take it easy. And it was like mind blowing to me to hear that was a tradition that was just casually told throughout your family, probably dating way, way back.
Yeah.
And here modern medicine was actually mimicking it, but we weren't actually told it in the same way. And it made me understand that whole period so much better from that one little anecdote.
Yeah. And it's funny because you can see that across so many cultures, that there is some period of time, usually 40 days, 40, it's actually quarantine, okay? And it is basically 40 days where the woman is not supposed to get too many visitors, like she's supposed to rest and, I believe in doing certain things at some point, like breathing exercise, but you're really not supposed to do anything. Everyone from the time, like the tribe, basically, of women that you used to live with would come to your house, cook for you, clean for you, take care of you, give you all the warming foods that you need to heal from that. And all you do is breastfeed baby or bottle feed baby and rest and heal. And what happens when that happens is, number one, you have support. And what we know is the number one thing to help your baby have a longer, healthier life with longer telomeres is for the mother to feel supported during her pregnancy and after. Decreases the chances of postpartum depression and allows no cortisol to spike because you're not, oh my gosh, I have to go back to this. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I don't have help. I have to, cook the meals. I have another child, maybe. That is not the way it's supposed to be. You're actually supposed to just rest, relax, and really recover properly. And 40 days is something that is actually a tradition in many cultures. And it works. I can tell you it works because I cheated and I went up the stairs a little too much with the third one because I was like, I'm good. I've had 2 kids. I know what I'm doing. No, I bled the longest with her and it just took a little bit longer for me to feel like myself again. So honor that time. It really is self-care.
It's a good reminder that we're always learning. Your book, you say it's the Wise Woman's Guide to Your Healthiest Pregnancy and Birth from Preconception to Postpartum. So we talked a little bit about postpartum there. Preconception is something I haven't really heard that much about. That's something else that you've told me about that is many, many, many months, even years ahead of when you decide that you'd like to have a child. You and your partner, not just the woman. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about preconception and why you think that's so critical.
So many people in the functional medicine world, one of my colleagues, Dr. Sergio Pecorelli from Italy, has basically coined this first 1,000 days term. And I talk about it in the book a bit. And basically preconception is the time that we can have the most plastic time so that we can really propel our health and change the epigenetic, like have the most impact on your epigenetics so that you can have a healthier baby. Yeah.
Epigenetics.
So the epigenetics are like basically the genes before they get transferred off to the offspring. So basically it's like the priming of your genes, right? I'm trying to say it in a late term. And sure. So, I might have certain genes and certain positive genes, certain negative genes. And what I want to do is pass as many positive genes off to my child. The more inflamed I am, like let's say I party a lot and I drink a lot and I, don't exercise. I work like crazy. I don't manage my stress well. I'm always, going, running. That's a pretty inflamed body. Now you say, well, I'm not red, swollen. No, that's not acute inflammation, but chronic inflammation. So when you have that inflammation in your body, it kind of turns on these not so great genes potentially. And so what we want to do is put forth our best foot forward. And this is important also for the man. The man is 70% responsible for the health of your future baby. 70%, 70. So that's a huge responsibility. So really partners should sit down and say, okay, let's clean up our act. And I talk about it for 6 months as like your minimum, because you need about 3 months to kind of clean up your act and 3 months to optimize. And
interesting, because 1,000 days sounds like a lot of preparation.
Yeah, and that includes, it's really, that goes into other aspects of pregnancy and the effects of the baby in the first 2 years of life and other things. But preconception is the key time. If you want to do anything to support your baby, a lot of times we just think about the pregnancy. I want to eat right. I want to exercise. What am I supposed to do during my pregnancy? Well, actually, if you do some stuff for 6 months right before you get pregnant, now we don't know when we're going to get pregnant, so. But generally speaking, if you start on this journey, you should think about preparing it. Like I tell my patients, you don't just get up one morning and say, I'm going to run a marathon and just run it. You train. So why don't we look at this as preconception as almost training, getting ourselves ready. And, really, there's the statistics sadly now is that 54% of the children in America have a chronic illness. Anything from a mild like allergy to autism spectrum to, neurological diseases and all of these things. And so it used to be in the 1960s, only 4%. So that's a big change, in not so much time. So we really do want to say, all right, how can I affect that? How can I make that statistic work in my favor and have a healthier child? And really, it's in preconception.
That's so interesting. I wonder how data collection too has changed and how we become more sensitive as well to what children are also going through. But I'm fascinating to think about. I'm curious about your journey, just as we finish up here, to this book, to getting this by holding this book in your hand, because I know it's been probably such a moment. Yeah. But you probably have learned so much. I know you had this body of knowledge before you wrote this book, and you wrote it with a doctor, a partner as well. What did you learn in the process of researching and writing this book that made you even a little bit smarter on the topic of motherhood?
I did have a lot of my wisdom that I poured into it, my colleagues' wisdom, really curating this knowledge for everyone. And with Dr. Sadaty, who's a functional medicine OBGYN, it was just kind of the perfect match of almost like the doctor's corner. But what I learned throughout was, how important it was to choose words wisely so that I would give off that joy. And then one of the statistical things that I thought was really made me a little smarter was that 20% of women are still being prescribed bed rest. And so that was a whole other section that we added, because I was like, all right, these women need to know what to do. They can't, they may want to still deliver this baby vaginally or, feel better in their bodies. So we added this whole section on bed rest, which is not very frequented. And I actually get comments about that, like, thank you so much for putting this in. And of course it was just these, there's a matrescence meditation in there. There's all sorts of breathing exercises, because what we don't realize is that 100% of women have a breathing dysfunction when they're pregnant because they can't access their diaphragm. So they have to compensate the way they breathe. There are so many symptoms that connect to breathing that sometimes it could be hugely impactful. And it doesn't cost anything. So it's really wonderful to be able to have these little pearls and tidbits, and interviewing people, in the Ayurvedic tradition and Chinese medicine and, different cultures, Nordic cultures and South American cultures and what they did in Africa. It's just like wonderful, fun stuff. And what I found was that we're all really kind of quite connected. Very, very similar kind of advice, very similar little pearls of wisdom being shared. So, it was really nice because it brought together this kind of unifying feeling, and it was really a wonderful experience for me. I really feel so blessed to have been able to get it all together.
Yeah, I'm sure it was no easy feat running your own practice, also with 3 kids, and then trying to bring joy back to motherhood. But it's, you know what? We can feel it. And I can attest, I have trusted you with my body and my health, and I can attest to your amazing talent. And I'm so proud of you for doing like this accomplishment. But more so, I'm so glad this is a resource that so many can access. And so highly encourage everyone to check it out. And happy Mother's Day, Patricia.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Quick, concise, nonpartisan, smarter news, a refuge from the storm. I'm Jenna. Thank you for choosing smarter.